So, Super Meat Boy recently released on the Switch, and while as gamers we were happy to see one of the greatest platformers of the last decade make it onto the system's library, I don't think anyone has been more happy than the team over at Team Meat, who quickly took to Twitter after the game dropped to mention that the game's first day sales came, quote, shockingly close to its debut on the Xbox 360 back in 2010. That's nuts. Of course, that's nuts comment also came from that tweet. They'd go on to say this makes them really excited for the follow-up, Super Meat Boy Forever, to also get its release on the Switch. Makes sense, the first one is just printing money for them right now. Indie games in general seem to be performing extremely well on the platform, in fact. I've been raving about a lot of them myself throughout the Switch's first year. By the way, did you buy Golf Story yet? If not, don't talk to me, you're banned. You know, I've been seeing some comments when I say, oh, go out and buy Golf Story. Some people saying, oh, well, you know, I don't like golf games, I don't like RPGs. Did I ask if you liked golf games or RPGs? I just said buy the damn game. Why is that hard? Anyway, clearly the Switch and indies seem to be kind of a perfect match. So, why is that? Obviously, the portable factor of the Switch is a big draw. People like the idea of playing games wherever, whenever, always at the ready. It's a benefit for pretty much any game, really. But I think a big part of why indie games in particular are doing so well on the Switch has to do with the drawbacks of the system, actually. If I was going to say what, in my opinion, were the two biggest downsides to the Nintendo Switch as a whole right now, it would be the online offerings and the lack of power on the system itself. When you compare the Switch to its competitive platforms, I think it straight up doesn't measure up in those two categories. Now, things might start to get better once the online service drops for the Switch in terms of those online offerings, but as it stands right now, they're not great. But when you look at many of these indie games, these aren't really major factors. They're typically not very demanding performance-wise. And while some do have online functionality, it's usually not the primary focus. And again, when it is similar to the demand on your actual console's performance, the online in these games usually isn't that hard on your internet connection. When you pull these sorts of factors out of the equation, as many indie games do, it's really hard, in my opinion, to not go for the Switch version over everything else. Hell, even the PC. Like this upcoming Super Meat Boy Forever game, okay? If I'm looking at it and I have an Xbox One, a PS4, a Switch, and yes, a PC too, a gaming PC, why would I want to get it on the other platforms over the Switch? I want to know in the comments. Sure, maybe there's some sort of resolution differences in that, but seriously, who cares about playing a game like Super Meat Boy in 4K? Like, sure, if you have the option, why not? But I don't think anyone is buying the game for the insane graphics. So why wouldn't you go with the one that you can play anywhere? The one that's portable, but you can also throw it up onto a TV or a monitor. Play it however the hell you want. And seriously, I want to know the reason, because I just personally, I don't see it. Only if the game is cheaper. I could see that. You know, some of these games that are older releasing on the Switch, I've mentioned this in the past too. You know, if you can get the game for a fraction of the price on another platform, I could see it being hard to justify buying it on the Switch. But when the game is a new release, we typically get the same price across the board. Oh, well, I actually have the NVIDIA Shield tablet, so no, you don't. I know it, and you know it. You don't actually have one, so don't even bring it up. And Steam, right, has been for a long time the go-to place for indie games, I'll admit that. But even I think that's starting to have its issues. For one, now there's 17 billion games per minute being put on Steam. I mean, I don't know what the number is, but I know it's a lot. And the quality control has been a huge issue, in my opinion, for a while now. Like, a lot of complete garbage makes its way onto the platform. And on all the platforms, it's getting harder and harder to get any sort of attention or promotion when you're an indie game. You know, it's really tough to stand out. But when you boot up the eShop on the Switch, this is the first thing you see. Like right now, if you booted it up, this is what I'm seeing. The recent releases, and typically there's only a few added per day, so every game gets a fair amount of time to be featured here. Nintendo doesn't tamper with this and keep like their newest AAA titles featured at the top for a while or anything like that. This is just straight up, here's the games that are the newest ones. And sure, you can just say, oh, well, that just means there's less options on the Switch, and that's actually a negative compared to something like Steam. But again, if you have 100 releases per day, but 98 of them are total trash, how much better is that, really? And that's not even what I'm talking about here. We're not comparing the libraries. When I say, oh, I'd like to buy Super Meat Boy on the Switch over the PC, the PC people, oh, well, all these other games I can play. That's not what we're talking about, okay? We're not comparing the Switch library and, the PC, PS4, or the Xbox One's library. We're talking about why the Switch looks like it could be the platform for indie games to thrive on going forward. So yeah, not being surrounded by a sea of other releases makes it much easier for people to notice you. People are more likely to click on a game just out of curiosity because they see it right there in front of their face when they boot up the eShop, and maybe even check out its trailer or something, which obviously is going to help sales. To me, this is important because I understand with indie devs. Their budget is tight, resources are limited, so many times it can be hard to justify releasing your game on more platforms. I know we as the gamers just think, oh, just put it on everything, but that costs money, that costs those resources. But given this trend, the current trend we're seeing, I think it would be foolish for any indie dev to not at least consider putting your game on the Switch. And Nintendo seems more than interested in featuring the standouts on things like the Nindy Showcase. That's where I first saw Golf Story, thought it sounded cool, bought it day one, and have been plugging the game in my videos ever since. And if a title like Mom Hid My Game can find itself featured, getting, quality airtime in a Nindy Showcase, I think pretty much any indie game has a chance to do that as well. So yeah, when it comes to indies, I strongly believe the Switch will continue to be the place to be. I think it is currently the best, #1 place of all the platforms to both play these games as well as discover them. So yeah, fight me. And with that, this video is a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on the trending success of indie games on the Switch in the comments. Do you also think this is the best platform to play these games on? As always, I'm John Zakari, and thanks for watching.